The NFL draft is next week, and that means that rookie season hype is as high now as it'll ever be. For that reason, we had to bring all three of us onto a stream together because while myself and Tyler, we've been drafting and getting to grips with these rookies, Rich has been diving deep on these incoming players. Version 2 of the rookie guide, it is well under works. And Rich, your track record when it comes to rookies, it speaks for itself. But who is one player that you've kind of found yourself changing your mind on since you started on this process in January?
I've gone through a journey with Matthew Golden. I'll be brutally honest. I enjoyed the film initially. Plugged him into the rookie model. We absolutely hated him. He ran a 40 and started getting first round draft capital comps and kind of talk. And it's like I need to go back and watch some more. So I try and watch as many as possible, at least 6 games on those kind of first round guys. And basically, it picked that the first 2 games I watched were his 2 good games because I don't think he's worthy of being a first round pick in my eyes. And I think I'm probably going to end up with very few shares of Golden come Dynasty rookie drafts.
He's kind of like the last week, the mock drafts kind of have him flip flopping with Tet with the Cowboys at 12 now with the whole combine 40 time gate. It appears that maybe some of these players had poorly measured timings, including Golden's 40 being closer to a 4.36 than a 4.29, and maybe teams have adjusted for that initial speed spike. So it's been fun the last 7 days with Golden specifically.
I find it hilarious with the 40s because like every year we get these 40-yard dash superstars, and it's ridiculous because 40 times actually have a negative correlation to fantasy success. Yeah, everybody dreams up these 40-yard dash superstars.
Matthew Harmon's theory for that is that some of these, and I've kind of read a bunch of the reception perception profiles he's been dropping, and part of his theory is that these guys, outside of the really elite guys like Tyreek, for the most part, the speed guys just have a really hard time throttling down for some of these like more timing based routes, and it's really difficult to do that for this high change of pace speed guys, and it seems that's more sticky than not.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to cross sports, but if you think of someone like James Harden, the reason James Harden's had such an amazing NBA career is not because he's a great explosive athlete, it's that he's got like 99th percentile deceleration levels, and he can stop and create separation better than anyone. That's why the step back 3 works so well and stuff like that. And to me, that's where I see wide receivers. It's not about how fast you can go from 0 to 100. It's how fast you can stop, get in and out of your break, and then explode out again. And it's, you know, like think of a sports car. You're not driving around the corner at 100 miles an hour. Slow in, fast out, as they always say. That's what you're looking for with the wide receiver.
Yeah.
So, Rich, like, you know, coming off that slightly, obviously we are underway here, but we'll be picking at pick 7, so we've got a bit of time. Who's one wide receiver who you've gotten more impressed by as the process has gone along?
I think Jaden Higgins is definitely a riser for me. I think the more I've watched, the more I've understood. I guess he's someone that can win late. He's got late hands. He can create separation. Not just, you know, he doesn't need 5 yards of separation to be open. You give him, you know, a foot, 6 inches. It's enough that he can manipulate his body and manipulate defenders in order to secure the catch. So he's someone that from a film perspective has definitely improved and impressed on me the more I've watched.
And he's been rising in ADP as he kind of gets like locked in second round draft capital mocked to him across the big boards and consensus big boards, and had a 9.92 RAS because of his elite size and explosion specifically. So it's nice when kind of all of those things align with what you're seeing on film.
Yeah, so we got Jamar Chase, Saquon Barkley, Bijan, Justin Jefferson off the board. Jahmyr Gibbs goes just before we get to kind of pick in. CeeDee Lamb, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all the kind of wide receivers. Rich, where's your lean here? I know you're a CeeDee Lamb guy and he goes 1 pick before us. Where'd you go with this first pick to kick us off?
I'd go either Nico or Brian Thomas. I'm scared of Devontae and what he can do to Puka, so I'd have Puka slightly below those other guys personally.
I'm big into Nico.
But Tyler, you're also pretty big into Devontae, aren't you? So like, let's go Nico. But how you feel about Rich? Like, just
I get it. I think it does. You know, if Devontae Adams does what he does, and he stays healthy and he puts up great numbers, which I think he's in a great spot to do, he certainly caps like the full season touchdown that Puka can really grow into. But at the same token, you know, it's if the pass offense as a whole improves and they just, you know, they regress towards a higher pass rate in the red zone in general, then like the whole pie expands that Devontae Adams is eating into. You know, then you think about Higbee last year of his contract, older in age. He looked pretty good, but, you know, are we going to get all the games out of him? So I think there are ways that macro-wise it can work out where Puka and Devontae Adams can both hit at their prices. You know, full season, it's probably a little bit thinner of a needle than we'd love to admit, but for single game upside, I do think they both maintain really high upsides in and of themselves, because we really haven't seen this offense with Stafford with both guys healthy for long stretches of time, while the offensive line's also been healthy. And so there's a, you know, I think the 90th percentile is that all these guys are healthy and it's playing well. And we see like a Peyton Manning-esque, you know, explosion season.
Yeah. Plenty of you guys in the chat. You are one of our YouTube members and truly appreciate you. Rich is going to be live on Wednesday night doing a rookie mailbag for members only stream on Wednesday. So make sure if you've got any more questions about rookies, which we don't get to tonight, you check out that stream on Wednesday. It will be a lot of fun. We're back on the clock. Obviously, we've got Nico Collins, Derrick Henry, Lad McConkey, who I know Tyler loved. I'm happy with Lad McConkey here. In terms of the other people at the top there's nobody who I scream for. Rich, anyone you may want to make a case for with 9 seconds left?
No, I'm good with Lad.
Hey, and shout out to Meat Gazer. Like, 5 people gifted those memberships. Snap them up. Get into the Discord. That's where you can get Rich's rookie guide. Jump in right now and you'll get version 1. Version 2 will be out just after the draft. Rich is running the London Marathon next weekend, as well as finishing up the rookie guide. So look, don't let all this hard work go to waste. Go and grab a copy. And thank you very much, Meat Gazer. So Rich, I know you haven't done much in the way of these kind of drafts. You've done a couple of ones on Sleeper. I know you've been in the kind of startup streets as well. But anything feel crazy when you look at these early couple of rounds?
Nothing massive. I mean, I'll be honest, I looked at the draft board there when we had Lad and Derrick Henry, and outside of that, it felt pretty disgusting. So maybe that sort of back end of the second, early third. Yeah, it's not a particularly pretty point when we're looking at T Higgins, JSN that early feels rich.
Yeah, I mean, this is quite often the kind of question mark area of the draft, though, isn't it? Like, this is the potential league winner in the back end of round 2, round 3, and how the players in round 2 and round 3 perform tend to be how a lot of strategies win. You know, it's like a couple of years ago we saw all the wide receivers fail, and that was when the running backs had a bit of a resurgence. And that, as Steve, our friend from mine's gone blank. There we go. He mentioning that, you know, that it feels like a tier break, you know, after you've got Ladd, AJ Brown, and Taylor. I mean, T Higgins, JSN, definitely guys with potential to do really well. How are you feeling about Garrett Wilson, Rich, being a Jets fan?
I love Garrett Wilson. I'm a huge fan of Garrett Wilson. Who knows what the hell Justin Fields is going to do and going to be, isn't he? You know, hopefully it's Ohio State Justin Fields and he can force the ball to Garrett Wilson, but I'm concerned. Do you think there's some argument for pushing up the quarterbacks and tight ends potentially even higher, where we're saying that back end of the second is pretty disgusting? Could we see some quarterbacks start to drop in there as we get the casuals?
I certainly expect that to happen. That's been trend over trend year over year. You've got the hardcore sickos that want to push the envelope at value all over the place, but I certainly expect the running backs, tight ends, and quarterbacks that just have such locked in, stable points to be pushed up with the casual crowd, especially as it's gotten muddied.
Yes, we're back on the clock. Tyler, is this where you're just smashing Devontae Adams every time?
I go with God, and I trust in the big man with big ceiling games. But I know Rich might like Marv or Worthy as a year 2 guy, so I'll let him drive here.
I'm happy with Devontae.
I love bringing a nice MILF into this young man room.
So just back to your point, I think that Trey McBride should be firmly at the back end of a second. When you look at the difference between him and Brock Bowers, I think you can make the case that it just comes down to the touchdowns next year. And obviously what Brock Bowers did last year was incredible on a number of levels. But if Trey McBride finally starts scoring touchdowns, and we're very much in broken record territory, if he hit 5-6 touchdowns in a year, then all of a sudden we're talking about somebody who could easily be the tight end one. And yeah, I would expect that Trey McBride is probably the elite tight end to end up with highest exposure to when everything's said and done.
Yeah, there's an argument to make that he should, if Bowers is the new Kelsey, which he's not quite there yet in price. I think the market they want confirmation, but I expect him to move up gradually. Then you can say the same thing about McBride being kind of this like the Andrews or the Ertz of their primes, as like they're such clear target and red zone dominators that when they hit, they're going to lap the field. So yeah, I feel underweight somehow around like 15% McBride through 200 pre-drafts. And I do agree that, yeah, it's when you've got these question marks of these receivers and running backs, you don't have a question mark on guys like Bowers and McBride, and there's a nice little tier drop off there. So I'd expect him to move up as we kind of get more information and more casual drafters looking and going like, yeah, the numbers look good. I'm hitting click.
Yeah, so Rich, we're in round 4 now, and the only rookie to go off the board is Ashton Genty. Do you think there's an argument that any of these other running backs should be going this high, or do you think we're kind of in the territory where we might want to start considering them on our next pick?
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave the valuation, I guess, of ADP to you guys, but Amari Hampton to me is 1B to Genty's 1A. He's a 93rd percentile prospect for me in my model. That's better than Jamal Gibbs. That's how good I view him as. So yeah, I'd probably be comfortable with him in the 3rd round, to be honest.
Especially as all of his team visits keep going up and up and up. It's the Bears, it's the Cowboys, he might not make it to Denver. This is kind of how it's trending now, which, I mean, you get top 20 draft capital for a running back, and you're looking at safely clicking him all the way into the 2nd round historically, at least. So I agree. Him crushing the way he did, at the combine, just historically his comps seem incredibly strong, and if the NFL is going to agree with kind of like a full workhorse role, it's hard to see any way this hits or doesn't hit outside of like injury.
Yeah, to give you an idea quickly, sorry Tom, on Hampton, 90 plus percentile prospects in my model in the last 16 years average a best season in their first 3 seasons of 18 plus points per game. Wow. So that's pretty special.
Yeah, we're talking like mid-2nd round at that point, just on PPG.
So, Rich, let's talk hypothetically. So, if Hampton was, let's say, Ashton Genty goes at 6 to the Raiders, which there's still conflicting opinions about, but then we get to like the Bears at 10, and Hampton goes there. How much would that affect his profile for you in the model? Like, would that take him to be an insanely high pick? Because I'm guessing you've got him, his draft capital probably closer to 20 at the minute.
Yeah, see, the fact that he's a 1st round pick currently puts him in that kind of 92, 93 percentile. If he was the 10th pick overall, he'd be a 94th percentile prospect. So it moves him a little bit, but not a massive. The fact he's crushing that 1st round threshold, that's a big deal. So that's where he's jumped from kind of a month, 6 weeks ago, where he was kind of an early day 2 guy, to now being a solid 1st round pick, has kind of jumped him from a very nice prospect to that kind of borderline elite guy.
Nice. Yeah, I think that it's definitely going to be one of those very interesting points within the draft. So since our last pick, 3 quarterbacks go off the board as well as the tight end. So we're sitting pretty with Amari and Hampton, and then 3 wide receivers. This is kind of the question mark area of the draft. Guys like Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, who we've liked at points over the years. Guys like Cortland Sutton and Chris Godwin, who flash but aren't necessarily year-to-year as consistent as maybe we'd like. And then Alvin Kamara, who, Tyler, you were mentioning he's getting pushed up in drafts because of the Derek Carr injury. Tyler, have you been clicking Alvin Kamara more over the last few days with this news, or do you just still find it a difficult one?
He was falling for about 3 weeks into the 6th round after like Travion and Walker. And at that point, I thought it was fine to take him structurally. I feel zero motivation to take him more now with the potential, Rattler, Shadur, not Shadur, just like rookie QB type of thing.
Yeah.
Who do we have preference over here? Do we want to take
Waddle's screaming for me?
Okay. And then I will let the sirens call for him.
No, I'm good with Waddle, and I think it's kind of worth pointing out that, if Alvin Kamara is getting pushed up because of the stuff around Carr, then maybe Waddle should be getting pushed up because of the stuff around Tyreek. And I know so many of these legal issues around NFL players turn into very little, but how many times can Tyreek Hill push his luck between saying that he wants to get traded, between the stuff that we saw come out this week? Like, at some point, surely Jaden Waddle has to hit again.
Yeah, I mean, I've been calling Jalen Waddle a dynasty buy all off season. I think there's absolutely that 100th percentile outcome where he's a top 5 wide receiver this year. Tyreek Hill could get traded, as you said. Tyreek Hill could just disappear, quite frankly. If we're shooting for the moon, I think he's got a higher ceiling than anyone else going anywhere near this range.
Yeah, I think it is noteworthy that the way Tyreek's contract currently sits, Miami could find it suitable for the current predicament of not a lot of money, not a lot of cap space, and not a lot of assets to move him on draft night to potentially add, because they need multiple shots on the premium O-line positions. And it's an area of the draft that we expect there to be a run for. So I do think the realistic, it's the GM and the coach have said they've worked everything out with Tyreek. That doesn't mean they haven't decided that the best course of action is to try to we've got Jonnu, we've got Waddle, we've got Achane. Let's see if we can't turn Tyreek into 2 starting, O linemen and try to get back to this offense needs stability in order to run the offense we want.
Yeah, so we're back on the clock. James Conner, someone I know you've talked about a bit this offseason, Rich, as well as Quinshon Judkins in this area, and then kind of Ricky Pearsall, someone me and Tyler take a little bit, and some wide receivers further down. Anybody stand out to you?
Don't like anything, really. I'm happy for you guys to shoot.
Tyler?
Conner and Judkins, I'm good with. Don't mind going after the rookie.
Let's go to rookie.
I love freezing the draft. Booyah. That's how it's done. That's how it's done, amateurs.
Yeah, I think we're building a pretty typical 0 RB team here. So leaning into rookies and assuming that we're getting better value out of them than what we're actually paying for them works for me. Through 6 rounds, 4 wide receivers and 2 running backs is something that I'm completely comfortable with. Tyler, do you feel like the last few weeks it's been easier to go 0 RB than it was when drafts opened? Because when drafts opened, it felt like the running backs were pushed up to a point on the back of the year where there was so much untypical running back success that it was quite hard to ignore the values, because if you were waiting till round 6, round 7 to take your first running back, you were really looking at scraps by that point. But now it feels like a bit more value's fallen down the board and it's a little bit easier to go 0 RB again.
Yeah, I think the draft boards in general have just gotten a little bit more stable to predict. Even with a couple random folks reaching and such, the pockets have really set themselves up really nicely as far as market. You kind of know who to expect that's going to get reached on. The same few names continue to fall in rooms. Those are like the uncertain, as far as the market's concerned, RB2s. And I just say that the rookies and veterans, the hammer late, have kind of gotten easier. And the worthwhile receivers that you'd like have basically pushed up. So constructurally, it's kind of worked itself out that you can go with the more clear-cut receiver options, especially if you have a strong take on the tiers, and then just hammer out, the guys the market doesn't want and just load up on ambiguity, which typically is how 0 RB works itself out. Is, hey, there's value here and we can't decide which one, so I'm going to just say I need all of it. I'll accept all of it on my roster, and if it hits right, fantastic. I've really enjoyed building that way, especially with some of these later rookies that we've kind of mentioned we like from a film or an analytics standpoint that could randomly just get day 3 capital in the right landing spot, since those guys work out more often than wide receivers getting day 3 capital. So certainly seems like the better bet to make late. Now that we're 2 months in with a little bit more info from a mock draft and combine and team visit standpoint.
Yeah, so we're about to be back on the clock. I mean, Neil, this is just a hat that's backwards. Nothing fancy going on here, but right. Caleb Johnson, Khalil Shakir, Luther Bird, and Matthew Golden. Rich, you said you've been on a journey with Matthew Golden. Are we going Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter.
Yeah. Like, can you understand that at all? Why Travis Hunter's ADP would be below Matthew Golden at this point?
Well, I can understand it because I guess there's a chance that Travis Hunter doesn't play a single snap on offense all year. So yeah, I kind of get it. But if you could guarantee me that Travis Hunter was a wide receiver playing 100% of the snaps, he'd be my 101 in rookie drafts, and I'd be comfortable taking him probably in the 3rd round. Like, this is a guy that in my model is better than Marvin Harrison. It comps very nicely to Malik Neighbors. Like, this is an elite prospect that we're getting at a huge discount here.
Yeah. So, Rich, I'm going to throw this at you again. How do you feel about seeing Drake May go there?
That feels early. Like, I love Drake May. I love me some Drake May. You know I do. Yeah, that feels early.
Very slightly early compared to normal, I feel like. Tyler, right?
I don't think I've seen Drake May selected in the top 80 picks through 195 drafts so far. So go get your guys badgeless, no non-derogatory.
Right. Well, we are back on the clock in a minute, and after that, we're going to pick Rich's brains on some of these rookies who've gone off the clock. But obviously, we're at a point with 5 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 potential cornerback where we can kind of go any way we like. Jaylen Warren, somebody I still feel is undervalued, but of course, the Steelers have had 8 of their 30 pro visits so far with rookies have been with running backs, which feels very noteworthy. Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, all there. Mark Andrews, who's still picking up some trade talks ahead of the draft, down as the next tight end. And then Cooper Kupp and Josh Downs. Like, for me, that's an easy one. Josh Downs ahead of Kupp. But Rich, anybody stand out to you as somebody you like in this range?
No, I mean, I've probably listened to you talk about Jaylen Warren enough that, yeah, maybe I'm slightly biased there. That intrigues me. But, yeah, I'm still a Ramondre stan, but I don't know if I love the value.
Tyler?
I'll give you the Warren if you'd like. I think Pollard's a little bit more insulated, but I do see, Jalen's a good player in a good situation.
Where I'd make the case for it on this pick here with this team is that Jaylen Warren's more likely to get touches to start the season. And yes, we're saying Amarian Hampton is going to get enough draft capital where he probably gets plenty early on. Quinshon Judkins, probably slightly more ambiguity about it, but I think that any running back who comes into Pittsburgh is going to have to earn their role. We saw it with Roman Wilson last year. Nobody's gifting you anything in Pittsburgh. You've really got to earn it. You've got to be able to pass protect. We know Jaylen Warren can pass protect. So I just feel like Jaylen Warren is a safe pair of hands to pair here. Perhaps Tony Pollard, as Steve mentioned in the chat, would have been the safest bet there. But I just think that Jaylen Warren's upside so consistently is so high that I'm willing to go back to the well on it, and I'm going to push Tyler's exposures to the point where I make sure that we're covered nicely.
Yeah, I'm in. The whole point of this exercise was to make sure that I didn't come out with 150 carbon copies, and I'm certainly not doing that now. I promise I don't have a team with Waddle and Warren on it, so that needed to be addressed because Warren's explosive. He has pass catching. It sure seems like the Steelers are kind of doing their homework on a developmental quarterback, not necessarily a starter day 1 quarterback, which lends me to believe that, well, Rodgers is still probably the plan A, which is, very good for Warren, a pass catching back with a quarterback with no mobility and a very competent system. And certainly I think the more pressing thing, the Steelers are meeting with a lot of running backs, but a majority of those guys are likely to be gone or the couple of really good guys that could nuke Warren are likely to be gone before the Steelers pick, and which is why they're probably looking at these developmental quarterbacks. But a majority of the running backs they've met with are kind of more day 3 guys, like the Ollie Gordons and Sampsons and esque, and which at that point, I do feel very strongly that Warren can be the much stronger 1A in both phases versus the much later running backs.
I think it's massive as well with the Steelers. I'd be gobsmacked if they took a back again in the first round, and they've not got a second round pick because of the DK Metcalf trade. So I think they're missing out on those immediate starters, and you're probably looking at the, maybe Scatterbo, maybe Sampson, Giddens, Neal kind of tier, who I feel like are good complements to Warren, not a player that's going to come in and take over the entire backfield.
I agree. I think the risk for Warren was much stronger before the Metcalf trade, and then before Genty and Hampton became potentially top 15 picks. For a while, I thought Genty or Hampton were guys that, just for NFL value and such, with the way the board was setting, would potentially be too endearing for the Steelers. But I definitely think the way the board is falling now, and especially now with Travion Henderson being kind of a potential target for teams like Denver if they missed out on Genty and Hampton, I just don't think the Steelers are going to have any reason to take a running back in the first round. And as you mentioned, no second round pick. There's been a little bit of smoke about TJ Watt getting traded, but I don't think they trade TJ Watt to give themselves a second round pick to take a running back. But maybe that's giving too much credit to the Steelers. But I do agree. I think Warren's probably relatively safe compared to some of the other backs in the price and his pass catching. And I do think the Steelers are likely a better offense than the Titans if Rodgers is the quarterback in Pittsburgh.
So we're one pick away from being back on the clock. Ramondre Stevenson, Christian Kirk, Jared Goff, Tyler Warren, Travis Etienne, Brock Purdy, Travis Kelce, Rashid Shaheed at the top of the clock. Rich, does this pick Ramondre?
Yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it? Like
10 picks past the ADP.
You never need to convince me to add any Ramondre to the squad.
Well,
can I hijack the stream? I want to pick your guys' brain. Rashid Shaheed, we saw what he could do last year. Absolute week winner. It feels like, he's obviously missed a lot of time, but he's apparently fully healthy now. This feels like incredible value to be getting him potentially in the 10th round. Is he a guy that you're drafting a lot of or not?
He's somebody
I hate Shaheed.
Sweet. that answers everything perfectly.
Well, it just feels like, if you've got questions about Chris Olave to the point where Chris Olave's ADP is being suppressed to the same area where we took Jalen Waddle, then you should be smashing Rashid Shaheed every time, because Rashid Shaheed, like you say, was incredibly good last year, showed that he had weak winning upside, which is what we want in best ball. Now, of course, the question marks surrounding their quarterback position become much more inflated at this point. But I've got every bit of confidence that Rashid Shaheed is going to be fun under Kellen Moore. So, yeah, no, I'm very much in on him. But
I think with the Derek Carr injury thing, to me, that's more appealing for Shaheed because, it doesn't take talent to just throw the ball up deep. And I'd be more concerned about, Olave that's a technician, a route runner that creates separation, that needs that chemistry with the quarterback. Anyone can come in and just be like, right, hit your back foot and put it up for Shaheed because he's going to beat someone over the top. So, yeah, I'd almost be more intrigued in Shaheed if Carr is out.
I definitely think it bodes well that some of the quarterbacks that they're going to be looking at, like Dart or Milrow or whatever, are kind of like these big armed guys. And the same reason why Cleveland is a good spot for him is the same thing. It's just like there are quarterbacks they can go trade for that are very little money. If they want to give up a pick. And that's something New Orleans has never, had a problem doing. So, yeah, I think the floor is safer, especially for Shaheed and given his price.
Well, let's take Rashid Shaheed here, and then let's just deal with the rest of the positions after it. We all like Shaheed. We all want Shaheed. And yes, like the chat says, that there's some ambiguity of quarterback position to a point where it's quite painful. But with 4 running backs and 6 wide receivers through 10 rounds, it lets us go a bunch of different ways at this point. With Kirk Cousins, I think it's possibly difficult to see that intra-division trade. But if any team was going to try it, perhaps the Saints would be one who would try and go out and see if they could get Kirk Cousins, because the Falcons aren't getting anything at this point. Like, everybody's just waiting for him to get cut. So yeah, I think that it's worth taking that, and I think we can piece together quarterback. Obviously, quite a few quarterbacks have gone already. Just skipping back a few rounds, Rich. Round 7, Emeka Egbuka went there ahead of where we took Travis Hunter, ahead of Matthew Golden. How are you kind of feeling about Egbuka? Would you be okay paying that price?
Yeah, I really like the guy. I think he's just a really solid, reliable NFL receiver. Like, I think he's going to walk in wherever he's drafted and be the wide receiver 2 immediately. I'm intrigued to see how NFL teams are going to treat him. Is he going to be a slot only guy, or is there going to be some kind of slot / flanker role, like a Zay Flowers that gets to move him around a little bit? I'd be very much more excited if that's the role he's going to play. I just think he's just going to be so solid, safe, reliable for an NFL team that he's going to get good, solid production.
What about in terms of the other rookies that we've had go off since then? Caleb Johnson, Cam Scatterbo, anyone who like stands out in that range as somebody that you wouldn't have taken or that you would have easily taken?
I mean, Caleb Johnson, I've gone on a journey with. I really don't like the film. I don't like the receiving usage. But yeah, there's definitely something there. I think his vision is hit and miss. Cam Scatterbo, for me, big guys that catch passes are always going to intrigue me. I think he's the kind of guy that's going to see high value touches. Yeah, he might not be able to, come in and play a similar role in the NFL like he did in college. But anytime you're sending me a guy that's probably going to see short yardage, goal line usage, and has got really elite receiving profile, I'm always going to be very intrigued. So yeah, for me, Cam Scatterbo deserves to be in that second tier of running back, along with, Caleb Johnson, Quinton Judkins, players like that. So the fact if you're getting him 2-3 rounds later than some of those guys, I think that's a really intriguing value there.
And how do you feel about the fact that Tyler Warren's going ahead of Travis Kelce and Evan Ingram?
It's just absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely insane. I cannot get my head around it at all. Look, I'm not a Tyler Warren fan, but this is a guy that did nothing for years, apparently because Theo Johnson's the next coming of God. But yeah, I mean, if people want to throw money away and draft Tyler Warren, I'm happy to let them.
And if you want to see more of Rich's thoughts on Tyler Warren and even Colson Loveland, we've got a video that went up on Sunday of the top 2 tight ends in the draft. It's on the channel now. Well worth going and checking out. We're about to be back on the clock. Obviously, 4 running backs and 6 wide receivers at this point. We do need to start paying some attention to the tight end and quarterback position. Quarterback tends to go quite fast. Tyler, do you have a particular lean here?
I think we can get our tight end 1 here, and since Herbert went, I feel very confident we can push Stroud around, and if not, we have Tua as a back.
Have you at Rich?
Yeah, I was looking at Stroud, but if you guys know or think we can get it, let's push it.
Loveland or Kraft? I'm good with Kraft. Yeah.
Okay. Man, I wanted to freeze frame again. You guys are just ruining my fun. I'm going to show off here.
Look, Tyler has said to the people that he will do another draft tonight, potentially. But if you want to do another draft tonight after this one finishes, then we are going to need more people to smash the likes. Sitting at 25 likes already. What are we aiming for, Tyler? 40?
I mean, we got to break at least 30, folks. If we can get to 35, I feel good about giving you my time. Which, let's remember, every minute we have to draft more teams is precious. And I don't have to do it with y'all. So it's a choice.
Yeah, guys in the chat, has anyone maxed out the big board yet? Are you guys sitting back waiting on more? Because it feels like it's too close now, but you're probably not getting any more contests. I don't know. Maybe Underdog might want to launch a puppy contest for pre-draft, but it feels like we're pretty much where we're at. I know DraftKings has got loads of overlay, and I believe they even yeah, I mean, imagine if there was a whole European customer base who were drafting on there as well. That'd be at least another 300 drafts filled.
Only 300? You're doing 300 in your sleep, Tom.
Trying. But anyway, so Colston Loveland does go. JJ McCarthy went the pick after us. Trevor Lawrence went after us. So that's what 11th round Trevor Lawrence, and then Michael Penix goes. Trey Harris also off the clock. Quentin Johnston. Question marks galore at this range in the draft. Romeo Doubs. We've got CJ Stroud, Dalton Kincaid, Keenan Allen. Like, these are players who people were high on last year, including myself, particularly with Keenan Allen. My God, that stung. But guys who've fallen down, I think Isaiah Likely is somebody that if you really seriously believe Mark Andrews gets traded on draft night for like a 3rd round pick and some salary cap relief, then Isaiah Likely is probably being undervalued by about 5 rounds. But I digress. We are a couple of picks away. Rich, how are you feeling about this roster when we've got a couple more picks before we get to us?
Yeah, very happy. This is why you guys are the pros. I'd have smashed CJ Stroud there, and not even risked pushing him. But hey, this is why you guys do shows, and I just stick to watching rookies.
I welcome the chat in the rooms to snipe my quarterbacks. I'll get ugly at quarterback, and it'll work out 6 out of 9 times, and I'm comfortable with that. But it's funny that you mentioned the Andrews thing, because for whatever odd reason, Andrews has continued to slip in ADP off and on, given whatever week and whoever puts the rumor out there. Goddard was falling multiple rounds until now, and people realized, wait, if they trade Goddard, his situation gets better as a good player for target earning. That seems, why are we discounting him 30 picks? But Isaiah Likely has been falling in ADP. I've started to get him more now, 2-3 rounds after ADP. So the market really doesn't know what to do with themselves right now, is what I've found. Everybody takes the news differently. I guess maybe the fear is that, well, if you trade Mark Andrews, you run multiple tight ends. Maybe they know ball and they know that Likely is not the blocking tight end to, fulfill those duties in this offense. What if they take Loveland? What if they take, one like Fannin or one of these other talented tight ends to, replace? Not sure, but yeah, it has been interesting who's falling and who's rising in these drafts. And I assume it's mostly falling so the guys can load up on the rookies that they feel they might not have packed their bags enough on.
Yeah, and I'd kind of finally pushed aside the Mark Andrews trade stuff and been like, and for what it's worth, I do not want the Ravens to trade Mark Andrews. I mean, I think that he's a far better player for us than the draft capital that you get back. I know he's quite expensive, but I think he's the kind of player that's clearly a good locker room influence and clearly somebody that probably would be willing to take a bit of a discount to stay there. Coming off 11 touchdowns last year. But then last week, Daniel Jeremiah talked about how he still has a gut feeling that he thinks that they could end up trading him on draft night. And, Daniel Jeremiah worked for the Ravens, is close friends with plenty of people who are still in that front office. And that just kind of put my spidey senses up a little bit, that made me think, okay.
Who's trading for Mark Andrews is what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, that's the other side to this coin, isn't it? Like, in a class where you've got 4 or 5 decent options, Rich, do you think there's anybody who would look at them and say, okay, if I miss out, I'd rather send a 3rd round pick to Baltimore and then pay quite a lot for Mark Andrews? It have to be somebody with an inexperienced quarterback, somebody like Bryce Young, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the reason the Ravens would move on from Mark Andrews was cap relief. That's the reason, is that you're looking at it purely from a cap perspective. Well, the only team that's going to trade for him is a veteran team that's pushing to try and win it all. Is Mark Andrews really pushing you over the top? I can't see there's many teams that are sitting there looking at it thinking Mark Andrews is the piece that's going to push us over the top. So I'd view it as, a contending team that can maybe get him for like a 6th or 7th round pick. Are the Ravens really selling Mark Andrews for that?
No. Yeah. And they already paid him a $4 million roster bonus. So it's like, you are not losing him for that. Rich, back on the clock. We need a quarterback here. Matthew Stafford or Cam Ward. We've got the Stafford.
Risk me with the Stafford. I'm a huge Stafford fan. So yeah, I'm always happy there.
I would love to push him around the corner, but I don't want to stress you out too much on this Monday. So we'll settle for a nice clean stack. We got asked, are we worried about our quarterbacks? No, we have both of our quarterbacks stacked up with 2 of our top 3 picks. I'm not too worried.
It's good. Yeah, I'm just going to put out the chat. Steve saying, I think the Rams are a team that could trade for Andrews or Goddard, and then off Schneid. both those guys, Steve and Offschneid, go check out their channels because those guys are killing it lately. And I think those are the kind of team like the Rams being aggressive like that would definitely be interesting. And man, I mean, if you give me Mark Andrews with Matthew Stafford, like forget about it.
The only thing I would say is that, like, I think we need to put Mark Andrews in a box. Mark Andrews isn't a wide tight end. Mark Andrews lines up in the slot like 65-70% of the time. Can you have
like they just gave that to Allen?
Can you have Puka Nacua, who we know is a beast out the slot, Mark Andrews and Devontae Adams, who is arguably one of the best receivers ever out of the slot. Can you fit all three of those guys in? I mean, yeah, they could, but I don't think that's a sensible set of resources when you've got Tyler Higbee, who we know McVay loves and is very competent in that role.
Yeah, it seems like the Rams want to build a little bit younger, not older in this window, and I mean, I get it, but it doesn't pass the sniff test necessarily. In an effort to catch up, how do we feel about another receiver in these lines?
I'm always very intrigued by Cedric Tillman.
Tillman was my shout as well. Like, look, Cedric Tillman. I mean, obviously, if the Browns draft Travis Hunter, then it becomes slightly more difficult for Cedric Tillman because you've got Jerry Jeudy, you've got David Njoku. Particularly if it's Joe Flacco, though, being elite and just passing the ball to everyone, then surely Cedric Tillman can eat too.
Can I disagree? I think that if the Browns draft Hunter and want to use him as a receiver, I think that's a good thing for Cedric Tillman, because I think that Cedric Tillman's the only X receiver in that offense.
Yeah, keeps him on the perimeter.
Yeah. I think he's going to be on the field in two receiver sets, and if anything, it's a knock on Jeudy.
I agree with that. Yeah. It seems Judy's really only usefulness in the NFL is as a big slot, and when he's miscast on the perimeter, he's not able to do what he needs to do in order to fulfill that. He was eating when he got shifted into the slot, Elijah, and just took it from Elijah Moore. And Cedric Tillman's the only ex-perimeter body they have. Certainly, they could they could draft a guy like Jaden Higgins or whatever that could be a big perimeter body as well in this offense. Maybe even Alec Ayomanor. That said, the smoke is that they want to take Hunter at 2, and whether it was going to be the Giants or the Browns to pair the receiver with their college quarterback. So I think Sanders in a trade up, if he makes it past the Saints at 6, is in the books for the Browns if they take Hunter at 2. But it seems they're also comfortable potentially taking shots on Milroe or whatever. But both of those guys, Flacco, Milroe, or whatever for ex-perimeter Tillman. I liked Tillman when we first started drafting 3 months ago, Tom. I still like him here. It's just, and it seems like he's trending well from his concussion. Folks should just remember that young players getting their first concussions can miss multiple games. We saw that with Malik Neighbors. Doesn't mean they're concussion prone for life.
Yeah, Rich, just quickly before we get back on the clock, Kyle Pitts going 1 pick after Brenton Strange in the 13th round. How's that make you feel?
I'm a big Brenton Strange believer, so you know that I'm very interested there. Kyle Pitts just makes me feel sad because I feel like people talk about him as a bust, but it's just injuries hurt, man. Injuries really affect him. He's not the same player he was coming out. No. And I still dream at night of what would have been without the injuries.
So we are about to be back on the clock. Obviously, we've got 2 quarterbacks, we've got 4 running backs, 7 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. So the board's pretty open to us here. Jalen Wright, Tyler Algier, Blake Corum, Braylon Allen, Damian Martinez, the rookie down a bit lower, Alec Ayamona, who, Rich, I know you're quite high on. Do you like him ahead of those running back options? Bearing in mind, we might need to catch up at running back, but we can probably make it.
Okay. Yeah. Do we think that Breece Hall could get traded?
I don't think he's going to get traded so much as they just bring in competition for Braylon and Isaiah Davis. Frankly,
I don't think they add another body to the room. I think they only do that if they trade Breece Hall. But yeah, I'm happy like with any of those running backs. Yeah, that's where I'd be leaning. Yeah.
Okay.
So, in terms of rookies, Tyler, if you can just go back to the board, like I want to pick Rich's mind on some of these for guys that have gone over the last few rounds a little bit. So looking at the running backs, since the start of round 13, we've seen RJ Harvey go, DJ Giddens, we've seen Devin Neal go, and then down a little bit higher ahead of that was Dylan Sampson. Is there one of those guys that you really feel belongs in that range and it should be going higher than that, or one of those guys who should be going sufficiently lower than that?
No, I think this is the right value for all of these guys. These are the kind of lottery ticket options for me in terms of, I think, Giddens, Harvey, Neal. I'd probably say throw Sampson and Tootin in there as well. I think those are all guys that, if we're talking 100th percentile outcome, could be absolute league winners. Like, they're all explosive types that I don't think are going to take over an entire backfield. If I had to pick one of them, it's probably DJ Giddens ahead of the others. So the fact that you're getting him at a bit of a discount behind the likes of Sampson and Harvey, that's interesting for me. I mean, if you want to watch some fun tape, go and watch some RJ Harvey, because it's really fun. I'll guarantee you that. But yeah, I think DJ Giddens is probably the one that's got the most likely outcome of being a 3-down back, but also being consistently fantasy relevant week in, week out.
Yeah, so we're a couple of picks away, and there's a bit of a tight end run going on. We've only got the one. Tyler, anybody at tight end you'd want to pull up to pair with Tucker Kraft here, or do we just keep hitting the other positions?
Not personally, unless Rich is very high on Fannin.
No, I like Fannin, I like Taylor, I like Chig, I like Jatavian Saunders. Like, there's plenty of bodies there that I like.
Are you a Jack Besh guy or an Ollie Gordon guy?
I'm a Jalen Rawls guy.
I was so close.
Jack Besh. Okay, probably done at wide receiver now with Jack Besh, who Rich will just get on board with. But in terms of quarterback, it should Derek Carr, who potentially could not play this year, Aaron Rodgers, who could play but also could be terrible this year, Russell Wilson, who could play the whole season but also be terrible this year, Jackson Dart, who's got some upside, Daniel Jones, who has plenty of downside. And speaking of Daniel Jones, like Rich, we saw Anthony Richardson go off the board just a few picks ago behind the likes of Geno Smith and behind the likes of Cam Ward. Like, I know you haven't done much best ball so far this year. Does that surprise you how far Anthony Richardson has fallen? Are you still believing at that point, or are you kind of out on him at that cost?
I don't believe in him, but at that cost, it feels ridiculous. Like, I get that, you know, Shane Steichen and Ballard are kind of, you know, on the hot seat and stuff like that. But to me, the only way they keep their jobs is if Anthony Richardson turns into a franchise quarterback. Like, if Daniel Jones comes in and they win, 6, 7, 8 games, like, they're both getting fired at the end of the year. So I know there's talk of they're going to be equal starters at the beginning of the year and we're going to split reps 50-50 and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe it. I think they need Anthony Richardson to work. And yeah, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to have the pocket passing ability to be a competent NFL quarterback. But when he's on the field, we know that there's that rushing upside, and he could be a fantasy cheat code. So yeah, 14th round, if you're saying, you know, the next tier of guys are guys that we're not even sure are going to start at any point, I'm happy to take the flyer around now.
Yeah. Tyler, we're in round 17. We've got 2 quarterbacks. We've only got 1 tight end. Do you think we need a 3rd quarterback? And do you think we need 3 tight ends for this build?
I think we need 3 quarterbacks. I will never feel the need to take 3 tight ends, especially when we take a young guy ascending into a full-time role who looks very talented and could grow. So I think with the right tight end selection, we don't need it. But if we feel the need, I understand what you're saying from a construction standpoint. I'm very comfortable with the running back room the way it is. So I think we play the board and figure out how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, the running back room, it feels like it could do with a little bit more for me, but not to the point where I'm going to prioritize it over other stuff. I think, like, you know, if you're saying 2 tight end is fine, rather than 3 tight end, then that pick I'd possibly hope to be going towards the running back position rather than the wide receiver at this point. I think 8 wide receivers is completely fine. In terms of the running backs who are there, guys like Nick Chubb, I feel like you made the argument for a few weeks ago, Tyler. Marshawn Lloyd, somebody that we both quite liked and have taken a decent bit of. Rich, anybody there stand out as somebody you think we should be taking?
No, I'm a big believer in Marshawn Lloyd last year. Very disappointed he never really got to see him, so I'd be happy with him here.
Got some great coach speak this week.
Yeah, and in terms of the teams after us, there's loads of teams who've already got 3 quarterbacks, so very easy one to kind of push around and hope that we get one of the decent options. Tyler, go back to your coach speak nugget, please.
Just unsolicited. The staff that had nothing but good things to say about Lloyd before.
Love unsolicited coach speak.
Just a very injury ravaged summer and season. But the coaching staff came out once again and said, we want to get Lloyd involved in the pass game specifically. We think he's got some value there, which makes sense given his profile. Makes sense given kind of how they operate the running back position, and he's still the only other running back they have under contract besides Jacobs on this team, and they have a load of needs, including outside receiver with speed, with Watson's departure via injury.
I see you've queued up Jackson Dart, Tyler. Is that a hint that you are a Dart fan?
I just like what he can do for fantasy, and I like that he's got basically a lock to be taken in round 1. Fits the Kubiak leave behind but Kellen Moore system. So I think at this point it's just more of a it's a rookie quarterback and we need a third guy. But as the chat says, we've got options if we really wanted to push it. So I'm very open here to anyone. Sounds like you said you're not a believer in dime. So sway me with who you'd like our third quarterback to be.
I don't like any of them, I'll be brutally honest. Go with Jackson Dart.
Okay.
I mean, at least Jackson Dart, there's a little bit of upside at this cost. I think,
scrambling
Flacco,
alone.
Yeah, Flacco, it's a little hard. I know, Rich, you were kind of a little bit down on Jackson Dart in terms of feeling like he needs to see it before he throws to it sometimes. But, I mean, perhaps it's just one of those situations where a player gets into the NFL, receives better coaching, plays with better players around him, and maybe it just works a little better and it's easier for him to trust.
I completely see the talent. His ability to make all the throws. He's a good athlete. All that kind of stuff. My issue is that I almost think he had too good a coaching. In that, I think that I have real issues of him reading it out, and I don't think I ever saw him get to a third read on film. It was first or second, and that was pretty much it. I don't think I saw him make any full field reads. It was all, half field reads, and it's a very, very special offense by a very special play caller.
It's an easy button offense for sure.
Yeah. I think he's doing the heavy lifting, not Dart.
What percentage of quarterbacks in college would you say you routinely, when you're watching the tape, are making it to the third read at times at this point, Rich? Because it feels like so many are simplified. You are far better at this than I am, but to me, it feels like it's so simplified that that's something which we want to see from our top tier quarterbacks for sure. But I just feel like that there's less and less being asked to do it.
Oh, 100%. And, this is part of the biggest challenge of someone like me sitting here watching the film rather than being able to talk to the guys and understand, who is making that read. Are you actually reading it out, or are you being told this is going here no matter what?
Right.
You're probably talking like 15-20% of quarterbacks that are making full field reads. Like most quarterbacks are being given, a pre-snap read. And then based on the look, that's probably giving a 1 to 2 post snap read, not more than that. It's very, very few, but that's what makes the ones that are doing it so special and so incredible. And, that's why I love someone like a Drake May last year, because he was getting those kind of full field reads in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for Dynasty, that's definitely a good point to make as far as long term. I just know that in best ball, if a quarterback's taken in round 1, he's a heavy favorite to start at least 8+ games. And if he has any rushing upside whatsoever outside the top 150, that can just be a really, really easy way to get leverage on the field after you've pushed the quarterback position pretty late on. And he seems like one of the more underrated scramblers of the group. It seems like that was his answer to pressure. And so I think for fantasy, that could be a nice a nice floor at minimum. And then if he does hit some of these easy button passes, maybe in a Kellen Moore motion heavy offense, it could look really good for a few games.
And rule of cool, if you've got an X in your name, you're immediately good.
So let's stay with running back position, Tyler, because there's another guy that I'd push ahead of tight end here. But like Jarquez Hunter, we talked about him already and how much fun he is to watch. That just feels like the perfect running back to round out this room. Is anybody against that?
I like him.
I'm fine with it.
Yep. Cool.
Rich, in terms of running backs who've not been drafted, who are rookies, Tyler, are you able to just pull that up by, like, is anybody like Taj Brooks, Trevor Etienne, like, guys, do you think Raheem Sanders, do you think there's anybody who should be getting drafted routinely in every single draft that isn't?
I'm intrigued by Jordan James. Like, I'm fascinated to see what the NFL thinks of him, because I think he's one of the few players in this range of the draft that could be a true 3-down back. I think he's got great vision. I think, everyone's going to throw out Bucky Irving and say he's going to be the next Bucky Irving just because of the helmet he wore. But there is an element of that level of vision in Jordan James. Raheem Sanders, for me, 2 years ago, I did a video, Tom, where I was saying he was potentially going to be the first round pick in 2025 rookie drafts. Obviously not had the best 2 years, but big guy, fast. It translated at the running back position. Most of the other guys I'm not a huge lover of.
Are the guys that you've got long-term hopes for in Dynasty?
Woody Marks I'm intrigued by. I much prefer his other name of, what is it, Jaquavius?
Yeah.
I think that, if someone calls it, if you call yourself Jaquavius, I feel like you're so much better than
Don't go
Woody.
with Woody. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm intrigued.
No one wants to touch a Woody, though, on game day, Tom.
I feel like you definitely do.
Oh, well, I'm not playing in the NFL, so.
I'm intrigued by him. Like, I feel like he's the kind of person that gets drafted in like round 5 or 6. If there's a couple of injuries ahead of him, could be, that kind of guy that appears out of nowhere and is suddenly fantasy relevant. I'd be intrigued to see where he goes with.
Yeah, so we're one pick away. I mean, this last pick for us has to be a tight end. The team before us has 3 tight ends already, so it looks like we're going to have our pick of Tyler Conklin, Theo Johnson, Mason Taylor, Noah Gray, Elijah Areo, Noah Fant, Taysom Hill, who is injured, Ben Sinnott, Michael Mayer, like plenty of names there. Rich, we talked about Mason Taylor before we got on here. Is Mason Taylor the pick for you here?
Mason Taylor, absolutely. I'm a big fan. He's my dream that the Jets managed to somehow get him in the second round. I'm a little bit worried he might creep up into the first. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of Mason Taylor, what he could be. I think he's the tight end that's not being discussed at all at the moment.
Yeah, I know Daniel Jeremiah has got him as one of his top 32 players, or said he would have him as one of his top 32 players heading into next week, and believes he's very much somebody who should be getting drafted inside the first round. I think it was Kevin Coleman from Devi Royale who came on and spoke with you about, talked about 3 players he can't wait to draft this offseason, and said Mason Taylor was one of them. Tyler, have you been drafting much Mason Taylor?
I haven't, just because I am allergic to Nepo babies this time of the year. But in all seriousness, I lean veterans at this stage heavily for the most part, just with unknown draft capital. But the last few weeks, it has seemed pretty clear that Mason Taylor is at worst a round 3 pick with all down potential. And we just see that one of the things that schemes and these offenses, modern day NFL offenses, need is a tight end that can do everything and allow them to be versatile outside of that. So certainly someone I could feel pretty easy pain points being light on through these early drafts if he gets good draft capital and a good landing spot. Certainly, but he is the type of guy that if you're only going 2 tight ends, betting on youth and guys just totally out kicking their ADP, it makes all the sense in the world to click.
So, Tyler, could you service the audio listeners and recap this very sexy draft that has been completely fulfilled with a very nice balance of rookies, a couple of good quarterback stacks, and plenty of upside?
I'd love nothing more, and I will just make a disclaimer because I at first I felt bad about not clicking Royals, but then I remembered I have like 28% of him, and Matt Harmon just released a reception perception on Royals, Besh, and Bond, and one of the red flags for Royals was that he's noted for many other players not panning out in these last decade of drafts is guys that just don't work much out. I think it's like 70% threshold for one side of the field snaps, but the guys that have beaten that, like Rushy Rice, are guys who were kind of put in the slot to be these big power slot move guys. Royals could certainly buck that trend. Besh at least has worked outside and inside as well. So maybe just for my portfolio, that misclick worked out all right. But we do finish up with a 3-7-2. I love ignoring the tight end position when we can. CJ Stroud, Matthew Stafford, and Jackson Dart as our quarterbacks. Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, Jalen Warren, Ramondre Stevenson, Braylon Allen, Marshawn Lloyd, Jarquez Hunter at running back, wide receiver Nico Collins, Lad McConkey, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, Travis the MILF Hunter, Rashid Shaheed, Cedric Tillman, Jack Puka Besh, Tucker Kraft, and Mesa Nepo Baby Taylor. I really do like this squad, and I really do like that it's a different kind of textures with, I think, the right amount of rookies. We did get asked earlier, do we expect rookies to have the same kind of impact they did this year in the finals? Maybe not to such a striking degree of so many scoring so much late, but I certainly think from the running back perspective and the quarterback perspective, there's certainly enough star power and firepower to be the guys you need late in the season who are just putting your teams on their back.
Yeah, just quickly, I know Steve in the chat from Fanspeak Network, he's looked at kind of previous winners in this tournament and talked about 4 or 5 rookies is definitely a number that you want to be hitting quite often. So I feel fine about that. And I feel like this is it's a very different roster to what we've built a lot of the times. It's some nice combinations and some stuff that I haven't drafted before. Rich, as somebody who's not done a whole lot of best ball drafts, but feels like, you're kind of quite in tune with what's going on with the rookies at the minute. How do you feel about this roster?
Yeah, I like it. I feel like we've balanced some, safer, more sensible picks with some high upside options. You think of, as we said, if we're talking 100th percentile outcomes, Jalen Waddle, Travis Hunter are 2 league winners. I feel like the same with some of that running back room. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with it. I'm always going to be a little bit nervous not having that third tight end, but yeah, this get comfortable being uncomfortable, isn't that right, Tyler?
Certainly. And then when you remember that 80% of tight ends score 5 or less points any given week on half point PPR, you go, that's all right. I'll manage without that.
Yeah, Tyler, we've hit 37 likes, so I know you're probably going to be sticking around for a second draft that you'll get to soon. But just in terms of this roster, it feels like there was no particular position which outweighed another one massively. So, obviously, tight end, Tucker Kraft and Mason Taylor, that we've said you could feel possibly slightly more comfortable with a third tight end. But, I don't know, Luke Musgrave feels like somebody who could be traded on draft night to me. I know somebody that was chat was mentioning as somebody to pick, but before we clocked, we had Tucker Kraft. But Luke Musgrave feels like a player who probably is going to be cheaper than Mark Andrews to acquire, obviously on a cheaper salary. And you go out and get him if you're a team that needs tight end help and you miss out on the guys towards the top. And then all of a sudden, how much higher is Tucker Kraft going in drafts, And then we talk about if something happened around Breece Hall, is Braylon Allen going up in value? If Marshawn Lloyd stays healthy, how much higher is he going? If Steelers miss out on running backs, or if they get Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers just isn't going to trust a rookie running back to pass protect or do anything of use for him, then how much higher is Jalen Warren going? So I think that there is a lot of upside there. I think it's a fun team.
One thing I would like to note for Kraft specifically, and I don't know if it's something we've mentioned very often, but he's been falling in drafts, and I don't understand why, because the only thing that's been said about him this offseason was when a reporter said, when you envision tight ends of this nature in your scheme, you kind of want guys like Kittle who can block and be yak guys, and Tucker Kraft did that very well. Do you see him being your full-time George Kittle-esque tight end this year? And McFleur said, absolutely. And for whatever reason, he's gotten cheaper. So I'm willingly loading up as a guy who might be running all the routes and all the snaps, which kills Luke Musgrave even if he stays on the team, and gives Kraft much more big playability, considering they need a spark in the passing offense. They said the only thing they want of the offense is more consistency. And to me, that lends well with a low ADOT, yak, Kraft centric type of thing at the tight end position.
I wonder if the reason he's fallen is it's just a mouth to feed option. You know, we're looking at Reed, right, Wicks, Dobbs, Kraft. The biggest sentiment that seems to be growing is they're adding another body into this room. Mm-hmm. Is it just a case of, right, we've already got 3 competent receivers. We know that there's Kraft, potentially Musgrave stealing some snaps as well. If we're adding in, you know, a day 1, a day 2 wide receiver, is that the reason why he's falling? Personally, I don't buy it. I agree with everything you said about Kraft, but I wonder if that's the reason why he's falling, because people are convinced that they're adding a higher drafted wide receiver.
And I certainly think that in those cases, as we mentioned at the top, buy into ambiguity, because we don't know how it's going to shake out. And we know that this offense specifically, this is one of those, there's like 5 or 6 offenses that they will game plan game to game, team to team specific matchups, but they'll also go to what works and what leaves them the least open to getting taken apart by defenses. And at minimum, that is, Kraft is a weapon in this offense who gives them versatility. And, you know, I know there's a little bit of, you know, Devontae Adams has been, you know, the same coach that said, yeah, he's my George Kittle. Yes, I know he's used the Devontae Adams moniker for Wicks the last 2 years. That said, let's break it down, guys. Devontae Adams was pretty bad his first few years. And what Wicks is doing really well is separating. What he's doing very poorly is catching the ball. That's kind of what Devontae Adams was. So I don't think it's a BS thing so much as these coaches see what the guys do well. And we know that things like drops are not sticky. And they trust if you can get open on an NFL field, that's something very few players do really well. And so when you've got those guys doing that, it makes more sense to just see if they can't unlock that next step, because if they do, it unlocks the whole offense. For Kraft's sake, that he's a mouth that's going to be fed, not someone that gets lost in the sauce, you know, coming into 2025.
And, you know, from a fantasy perspective, we get a half-point option, we get 0 points per drop. So, I mean, Tyler, I'm going to let you get onto a second draft in a minute, but first, could you just go back to the draft board? I just want a couple, like Rich, absolutely, in terms of where these rookies went off the board. Obviously, Ashton Genty went off in the first round. Do you feel like Ashton Genty can really hit in a way that he can pay off as the RB4 in ADP overall?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm fully in with Ashton Genty. I think, look, he, as I said on a show a couple of weeks ago now, he's above that 95th percentile mark for me. In my model, he ticks every film box. You know, as far as I'm concerned, he's in that Saquon Barkley, Bijan, Todd Gurley, Christian McCaffrey tier as a prospect. And you know, for best season in the first 3 years, average 22.4 points per game based on where he's in my model. That feels pretty good potential outcome.
Well, myself and Rich will bounce from this draft right now, but Tyler will be heading over to Drafters to draft the second draft of the night. Truly appreciate everybody in the chat hanging out with us tonight. I know that Tyler will keep it cooking, but if you want more of Rich's content, look, if you're a YouTube member, if you've been gifted a membership tonight, hop in the Discord where you can download version 1 of the rookie guide. Version 2 will be out soon after the draft. Also, so much more going on in there. Check out the channel. There are rookie profiles popping up constantly. We've got more rookie content coming tomorrow. Should be the next video. Had a lot of fun tonight. Tyler, we'll leave you in the very capable hands of steering this ship home. Catch you later, everyone.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Tom. Loved that. Great draft, guys. All right, folks, second draft, you hit the like goal. Much appreciate everybody sticking around. So we're going to hop over to PPR cumulative scoring over on Drafters, the $10 championship for $25,000 up top, first place. Really been enjoying hammering this. Looks like it's on track to overlay potentially before the NFL draft. So if you want to get into the second draft with us, join us over on Drafters. Use promo code Sanctuary, or the referral code get you up to $100, 100% first time deposit match up to $100. We waited him out and we won, fellas. It's time for guerrilla warfare over on Drafters. Oh, that got me. That was funny. Oh, goddamn, that's great. All right. And then let me swap. God, that was good. Good comment. Boom. Here we go. Look at that. Look at us. Also, Peppertonia had to say, oh, that's not the comment I wanted. This comment makes me laugh because given you have a Canadian goose as your profile picture, it seems like a threat to the rookie running backs that if they don't perform, you will attack them and bite them. And that brings me much joy. Yeah, I think Drafters is another fun place because you can really push structure. And I think there's a lot of edge to be realized in the fact that it is PPR. You have a flex that can actually be filled by some of these elite tight ends better than you can on Underdog. The wide receivers can be much more valuable, as well as just like avoiding guys that are likely to be suspended or injured for big chunks of the season can be extremely valuable, since every week is the same importance to your rosters that, over on Underdog, or DraftKings, your playoff weeks matter so much more than your regular season. So I think there's a really big edge here to be had, especially when there's overlay. So come join us. Green Bean asking, does Drafters have an app you can draft on phone? Yes. In fact, the app is really good. It's really nice. It's really smooth. It's even got swipe drafting for guys when you queue them up. I really, really enjoy it. Let you check it out. They also let you do two-factor and like bio, like your fingerprint login. Super nice. But yeah, so this is the Drafters app. Super easy to navigate and use. I like that it actually pings you both on desktop and for mobile when you're on deck. So one pick out, and then when you're on the clock. It's also got a draft chat option for both mobile and desktop, and I very much enjoy that as well. Talk a little crap, give people a hard time, crash out with snipes, all that good stuff over on Drafters. So really enjoy that. So we're waiting on two more. Nice. Two more, and we'll get rocking and rolling on the $10 Drafters NFL Early Best Ball Championship, $25K up to first. Kind of a flat payout when compared to some of these other contests. So really enjoy this, especially with, I think on Drafters, people tend to be kind of afraid of rookies. Rookies start slow, and we kind of know that that's not really the case in the modern NFL as much, especially for early pick guys. So there's also an edge in just trusting that early draft capital rookies are going to be all right. You're right. They could be playing in Canada. That is true, Chad. That is true. So appreciate everyone joining us this Monday afternoon. How's everybody's week doing? Who are we ready to slam right before close, right before lock? I know for me, I was fading Travis Hunter as a cornerback, potentially, the early information. I chase information more than anything. Early on, there's a lot of fear that, Daniel Jeremiah and other guys saying, hey, I'm in the minority viewing him as a wide receiver. But now that it seems like there's a few teams up top that would view him as a wide receiver first and almost foremost, and that team leading the charge is the Browns, and every media outlet, mouthpiece, Breer, Rappaport, Schefter are indicating that it's likely going to be Hunter at 2 to the Browns. So I'm adjusting my priors and just saying, okay, really explosive, best in class wide receiver from a traits perspective, likely going 2, going to load up. Also feels, good to have been fading Jerry Jeudy and likely knowing that a much better player in Hunter is kind of taking over that role. Chad saying he's too low on Likely and Kraft, just how it shook out. Wishing I had more. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of low on Tucker Kraft early on just because that was my running back quarterback window I was hammering. But now it's becoming really easy to take Kraft, who feels like he and Loveland now feel like some of the best clicks in that range. If I don't have a quarterback I'm stacking, I don't love any of those running backs particularly. So it's been pretty easy to, especially if some of those running backs they fall like a round or two. So it's been pretty easy. I don't know the Likely thing. I don't think I love his price. I'd rather kind of target, guys that will run all the routes and be on play action for touchdowns, but it likely is not going anywhere. His role is very good, and he's gonna get work. So waiting on 2 more, fill this drafters, and we can get ripping and rocking and rolling here on this fine Monday. No, I think he's just noting that there's like some weirdness with the UK and drafters. So they're not like, they're not like, what do you call it, advertising it necessarily, but there are ways around it. I'll just say that. We love loopholes. Waiting on 10 more. Drag this over here, split my screen. Y'all watch the Masters. You enjoy that. The drama unfolding all of Sunday. When live sports are good, they're very good. There he is. What's up, Colin? You on the couch ripping buds? Sinking in with edibles? Or just chilling out, getting home from work? I love the chat. Y'all are great. One more. Unamas, be the last to join us in our $10 25K up the top first place prize in the Drafters Early Best Ball Championship. That makes sense. Also, now that Tom and Rich are gone, I can abuse spam the nut button. One more time. One more time. I also want to note that on drafters, guys will just randomly fall like 3 rounds. Oh, we are filled. Let's get rocking and rolling, baby. Monty Virus, that's funny. Get some pretty good usernames too. Make sure y'all can see everything all right. Looks like you can. If I think I can give you all a little bit more. Yeah, that'll work. Dude, I get so many 10 spots. My God. I also like that on drafters, it'll show you how many, in parentheses, is the number of the drafts of this contest they've done so far. I seemingly see Higglesworth in every draft I'm in. And you can also upload your own profile picture. Like I mentioned, we got the draft chat. It's color coordinated. I love it. Let's see. Also, the fun thing is kind of like on DraftKings, guys that ended the season with an injury designation continue to have that on mobile, like their whole name is red. Those guys often fall just because they're afraid of it. It sounds like, based on the fantasy docs and the fantasy lawyers, which is, God bless them, Rashee Rice, very low to potentially no suspension risk as of now. Things can change quickly, but it just seems like it's stuck in the mud legally and may get pushed to 2026, very likely. And then his injury seems to be trending very, very well, much more ahead of speed than where some folks thought. So buying him in this contest, especially for how strong he was, again, this is PPR, and just the targets he was getting fed, the red zone role. We saw Juju Smith-Schuster have a couple usable weeks in the Rashee Rice role in this offense. So buying into that. Godwin, from a health perspective, seems like, there was probably some ligament damage to his ankle. So we should expect some regression of physical play early on, but by mid-season, he should be back to 100%. And he's probably going to avoid PUP. So just playing week 1 and then volume alone can, kind of negate some of that inefficiency physically. So not too shabby at all there. And this is definitely a contest where you can push structure. As far as your elite tight ends, I know this contest several times has been won. At least this format, 20 rounds, PPR, full season scoring. We've seen teams like, just take a naked Jalen Hurts when he was the quarterback one, and thrive and take first prize down. So you don't necessarily have to build as robust or as traditionally as you might over on Underdog or DraftKings, and that's another fun thing because you can really push in game theory and structure in this contest to get a leg up on the field. All right, on the clock at 10, I will gladly take I'm going to take Nico here. He was a monster in of himself. What's up, Bendels? I've also got my dog right behind me. He's just been ripping ass the entire time behind me, hotboxing me in my own office. Fuzzy bastard. Really no reason for Nico to be going like well behind. He's the clear-cut number one in this offense. Bowers goes. That's a bummer. Christian McCaffrey's apparently really healthy. His role is very strong, but I mentioned pushing structure to the max, and I definitely think having elite tight end in this PPR format is something I want to do. And I just know his age and his injury. So in this contest, if it's same old CMC, he is crushing me in the second round. But he definitely looked a little bit slower last year, even before the ankle injury. And then just how injuries are. If he misses any time as a top pick, you're kind of sunk. I don't mind taking the guy's youth. I know Nico missed time with the hamstring stuff, so that's not fun. But if he plays full season, he's going to just be a monster target earner. His yak ability lets him score from anywhere on the field. Some of his biggest, I think 3 of his biggest touchdown plays on the year were called back due to holding and bullshit like moving calls. And Trey McBride, just what an elite tight end that can put up, like, just his target earning alone is just incredible. And if he catches any touchdowns, we're looking at just monster numbers. So in this contest, I think it's very much live and smart to construct with an elite tight end in the early rounds. Yeah, this time it's Milo. So Milo bombs. I'm letting him have it though because he's got a dental procedure tomorrow. We have to wake up early to take him to. Got to figure out if he's going to get a root canal or an extraction of his canine. So let him hang out. Oh yeah, no worries, brother. No worries. Any questions, ask away. All right, I mentioned him. Gave you a little bit of pup cam. Good boy. Hey, Milo. Too sleepy to care. It's too hot. Super hot here in Houston. He's not built for this. CMC falls to the Puka Nacua drafter at 17. London falling all the way back to, London at this price is fantastic. This is odd. McLaurin going several picks ahead of ADP. I won't be surprised if he's either just trying to shift up his combinations, or he just sees the last 5 games of these guys and says, I'm loading up. Bucky Irving going to the Neighbors drafter here. He's getting unique with just taking him early and then taking Neighbors at 5, much earlier than all these other guys. Let's see. HN falling all the way back around to the Barkley drafter. Pretty interesting. The Cincinnati double gets the Jacobs anchor. May lose some pass down work to healthy Marshawn Lloyd if all things go right. We'll see. Yep, Jaden. Okay, so he reaches for McLaurin here in order to take Jaden Daniels at 30 and just go for the team stack. So from a full season perspective, makes sense. Harrison and Wilson and JSN going above DJ Moore and Devontae Adams, personally for me, is ridiculous. Hill falls quite a bit all the way back down to the CMC drafter, so he's scooping up value. Of course, Adams goes right in front of my face. Really painful there. I think for me, there's a tier break. I really want Rice, and then everybody else I don't care about. So if I get one of Evans or Worthy, I will feel fine. I might still take Hampton structurally. Seems like we got the chat going off. Got someone that's never heard of our channel before. I am Emo Cowboy of the Fantasy Sanctuary. We just got done drafting on Underdog with Tom and with Rich. If you're just now joining in, we're on the clock. Breece Hall falling back to us in the 4th round. I probably should take him here. It's not really changing anything that I did take Rice first. I just want to take someone that can get all the work. I'm going to take Hampton here. I have no concerns over Hampton getting all of the work as a round 1 running back. It's probably getting too cute with Breece, but Breece is playing with Justin Fields. He's also playing behind a really bad Jets line. Yeah. Oh, what's up, Eddie? So yeah, you're incredible. Nice. I do hope we ship it. Incredible. I like it. Yeah, so I think there's undue risk with Breece. Now in this format, with pass catching, that's certainly partially not an issue. You were taking him in the 1st round a lot last year, but that was also with Rodgers, and that was with like, hey, this line's held together with duct tape. Yes, I am a Houston native, born and raised. My concern is that the line is still bad. I know Rich, being a Jets fan, isn't as certain that they add to this running back room. They certainly might not. They certainly can. That would hurt Breece. Justin Fields being bad would hurt Breece. And again, this is like a full season contest. So if Hampton goes to a good offense like the Bears or even the Cowboys to do all the work, that's huge. If he goes to Denver, where they just pepper the running backs with targets, that's huge. So I see more ways for Hampton to be a better pick full season than Breece, given that I'm very bearish on what the Jets can do and be. But much like the CMC bet, if he's fully healthy and he's getting all the work, he can absolutely crush with big plays. He still had a big playability. I think he had like a 50-yard touchdown last season, mid to late season. So he still got the juice and the long speed. Breece Hall, that is. But he was like a much worse rusher and receiver last year than he was previously. So there's just concern with his talent and with the offensive line. And I'm saying that he can absolutely make me look foolish, but I would rather kind of bet on the 1st round running back who could just get a nut landing spot. And in that case, I think it's more likely that Hampton rises 2 rounds in a contest like this than Hall does post-draft, quite frankly. And from that standpoint, I'm kind of okay with that. Nice, Eddie. We were just in Sugarland this past weekend, I believe. My dog has decided to sit on my feet. Let's see, anything else weird happening? The Marvin Harrison drafter gets Worthy. It's a nice little dip for him. The Jaden Daniels McLaurin Reach drafter goes Mixon. Nothing too crazy. I will notice Kamara's been going earlier and earlier on drafters, especially. Sutton going before Flowers and Waddle is an interesting take. Don't think I would do it. Kittle, always a bummer when he goes. He's been a fixture of any team that places in the top 3. That it's either Kittle or it's the elite tight end who smashed and had 3. We're up on the clock just about. Higglesworth picking. I have a lean. Clock ticking down. He goes Olave. I will happily go Jawan Jennings, who was earning 9, 10, 11 targets to end the season. We look at it. The people on drafters are not even trying to snipe us. You love to see it. Jennings feels like a huge target here, connected to a good offense, and potentially continuing to still earn a lot of targets, earning deep targets, having the versatility to go play inside and outside. Had an awesome yards per route run last year, especially from the slot, but even when lined up at X. Ricky Pearsall has an interesting injury history with that shoulder that was kind of unstable, and he was missing time early in camp before the gunshot. And then, fading Ayuk, who likely lands on the pup, misses 4 weeks at minimum. Could take some time to come back. Back on the clock. I can continue to take first round running backs and bet on the explosion, and I think I'm going to do that. It is tempting to take one of these guys ahead of ADP. I think what I'm going to do instead to catch up with receiver is take Travis Hunter. He's not going to make it back to us at 82. I feel pretty strongly about that. You want to say, bud? I do think I can arbitrage Henderson all right. And if Hunter's going to play full-time receiver or close to it as a top 2 guy, again, he's going to rise. He's going to be very powerful, and I just want full season scoring. So in this build, I'm happy to take Travis Hunter here. What's up, Hartman? How's it going? How we doing? Our new friend Eddie Perez from Sugarland over here in the 7 spot, taking Deebo Samuel. I think he's a better target in PPR scoring for sure than over in half-point PPR personally. And he landed in a good spot. If he's gonna work out, it's gonna be with getting peppered in the slot in a Cliff Kingsbury offense with a very good quarterback. Yeah, I just really wanted to make sure to get Travis Hunter. His ADP's been rising. He's not usually getting out of this mid to early 70s range. And, as wide receiver 4 on this team, I feel very good about it. We have our elite tight end, we have our anchor running back, and then we've got our first 4 receivers in Collins, Rice, Jennings, and Hunter. Rice could, even though he is ahead of schedule and could play, there's still concern that maybe physically it takes him a few games, if not a little bit of the season, to really return to form. Again, volume, as we mentioned with Godwin, could negate that from a box score perspective. But if Travis Hunter gets taken 2nd overall and they want to use him as a wide receiver, and day 1 it's Flacco, it's pretty easy to see how that can go full season. And it's kind of my hedge. I've been taking Travis Hunter more on drafters as well. And the shitty part is that I do miss quite a few picks when I'm on drafters for whatever it is. And I end up with a lot of Deebo in the 6th round simply because he's at the top of the queue and I miss my pick. Ironhead forever going modified bully tight end here with Kittle and Laporta at ADP. I think it's fine. I don't know that I would do it when I do grab 2 running backs in the top 40 and an elite quarterback. I think I'm trying to push my second onesie in that scenario to closer to the 8th to 10th round and try to catch back up at receiver for full season. I'm interested to see what he's going to do here. Pollard goes ahead at Judkins. I think that's totally defensible in a full season contest. Judkins kind of looking like a potential top of the 2nd round pick, which by no means makes him, a day 1 smash. 3rd and Juwan, brother, You can't see a wide receiver going 2nd overall that's a cornerback. It's very easy to see how a receiver goes 2nd overall over a cornerback. And this is me specifically just saying, like, what Andrew Berry of the Browns, the GM, has said, that they view him as a much better receiver and playmaker on offense than Champ Bailey and Charles Woodson. So, willing to take his word for it. And in a contest like this, I have to finish 1st overall. So I'll betting on the nut outcome. I'm going to take Stephon Diggs here. Similarly, got some really good health news. His workout video, the fantasy docs think he's ahead of schedule, just based on the cuts he's making, and could avoid the pup. So as the wide receiver 1, if he works in the slot, he's not as good of a pick, but it is PPR. So again, volume king over everything. Sounds like the Patriots are looking at potentially Abdul Carter falling or Will Campbell at tackle for their pick. So should get peppered. And if he does play outside, his EPA per target and his yards per route run are much stronger outside. So Diggs could be a solid value as our 5th wide receiver full season if he does get to play outside, since they certainly have plenty of players that can play in the slot on the team currently. We're on the clock, and we're going to just pair up Kyler Murray with McBride. If McBride smashes as our elite tight end here at pick 15, it's likely because of touchdowns, and that benefits Kyler Murray as well. And Kyler Murray said, for the offense, he thinks he needs to start running more. I would agree. He's a year removed from the ACL now. Looks pretty good. Rushed just fine, in line with his career averages. And if he just throws and runs for more touchdowns, he's a smash it. You want dual threat quarterbacks, especially if they're going to outperform their ADP, and certainly when they're stacked. Yeah. Well, and that's what Andrew Berry mentioned. He's like, I think he specifically noted that, when you look at the raw stats, Travis Hunter had more total receiving yards in college than Bailey and Woodson combined. Yeah, and so in a team like this, at this point in the board, I'm picking 10th. I'm missing out on the top tier players in the first round. If I'm going to catch up, outscore those guys, and outscore everybody else in the field, it's likely hitting on, league winning upside and outperforming ADP. And so for that, for those types of guys, it's going to be Rice coming back to previous form very strongly, nearly from day one. Diggs kind of returning to form in that way, with a quarterback that can, chuck it deep and looked very competent reading full field stuff. Offense that probably doesn't throw a ton, but we did see them feed a guy like AJ Brown previously as the main guy. And they need O-line help. They need D-line help. They need a shit ton. They need a younger tight end. Hunter Henry's going to be like 34. Austin Hooper's a guy. Diggs also opens up us another mobile quarterback pairing in this contest who could also outperform his ADP rushing and passing. Yeah, I mean, the way he takes care of his body, and whoever's got him pumped full of whatever the fuck, stem cells, hormones, whatever, is doing a great job. The way he was cutting and stuff, 4 months out. And I will note that Jeff Mueller, the doctor I trust a lot, Edwin Porras as well as Adam Hutchinson. But Jeff mentioned specifically that, Diggs and OBJ at their point in their careers and their ACL tears were really comparable. But it appears that when you look back on why OBJ's didn't work out, is because it looks like he started applying too much load to the injury too early and fucked up the graft. And it seems that Diggs has not done that. And then when he started hitting rehab hard, was able to, kind of beat the timeline. So pretty notable there. Only one running back through the first 8 rounds, 9th round coming up. I am pretty interested in a guy like Shaheed. This might also be a place to take a running back, though. We also have our quarterback in May, so it seems like one or the other. I think I'll take Shaheed here, and we could potentially be done with receiver for a while. As our 6th guy, Nico Collins, Rashee Rice, Jennings, Travis Hunter, Diggs, and Shaheed. I think enough coverage if Diggs and Rice take any amount of time to kind of come up to speed. I think we got enough day one guys right out the bat. We got a misclick on the board. You hate to see it. Pittman's a guy that's fallen into the 120s, 130s on drafters the last couple weeks. The deer antler spray. Oh, I forgot about that. It was him and Peyton Manning, wasn't it? Yeah, the Jags running backs are hard to take. I just end up kind of taking the cheaper one for the most part in Tank. It seems like if the Jags do take a running back, it's probably to replace the pass catching role, and I think Tank can fill in the running role just fine. But maybe that's too much player take lock. Now the question is, do I take Charbonnet here and push May since I do have Murray? Because I have CJ Stroud as coverage. Brock is somewhat coverage. I think I'm going to just go ahead and take May since I took Diggs. If Diggs is paying off this ADP, it's helping May. And I think it's easier to catch up a running back than it is quarterback in some of these contests. Oh, yeah, Mooney London. Yeah. People on drafters love Mooney. So we've got Kyler Murray, Drake May at quarterback, still just rocking Hampton, which is another reason why I wanted to do. If I'm going to do an anchor running back, I'd rather do a rookie round one guy than Brees. I would have felt the urge to grab a running back in these last couple picks if I had taken Brees, just personally. So if I'm going to push structure here with an anchor running back and an anchor elite tight end, I'd rather just do it with young guys that could who have runways to just really outperform what they've done to date or what they have yet to do. I just think Brees has got more downside into his profile right now. Because I don't think it's definitely not the Jets gave Fields plenty of money, but they could certainly there's some bench risk, and that comes with Tyrod Taylor or a rookie, and neither one of those things is fantastic for what the offense can put up on a week-to-week basis. And much like the Miami Dolphins, the O-line situation is just kind of brutal. So I'd like to try to bet on really good teams with really good scoring outcomes season long in a contest like this. And then quarterback, wide receiver pairings specifically that can funnel a majority. If they're not going to be like the top scoring offenses, at least offenses where most of the scoring is consolidated to those two guys. And I feel really good about this specific pairing. Guys like Pacheco and Swift have been falling. Tank is regularly available here. We kind of mentioned him at the Jacksonville running back perspective. Feels pretty good. I like this start. I feel pretty nutted. Eddie's saying on his team, out of the 7 spot, he's got a lot of guys he hasn't drafted once. And if you're going to draft a good chunk of teams, have a good amount of volume down, I think it's good to mix up the kind of guys you have, because end of the day, you want to build sound constructed teams, hitting the right types of players. You're rarely going to get all the players right. Oh, I'm sorry, Kiki70. Who are you? Kiki, who are you? Did I miss? Hold on. Oh, my bad, brother. You have Neighbors, Bucky, Marv, Worthy, Waddle, Connor, Warren, Mason, Williams, Prescott. Yeah, it's tough. Too bad. So sad. I'm so sorry. To be fair, I had more need for McBride with the second round pick. And then what, May? Just because you wanted May? I think Prescott in this is more than fine. It just becomes impossible to actually backstack him because people love reaching for like Jake Ferguson and shit. Yeah, just because. Yeah. I haven't taken as much May just because I am kind of worried about the offense as a whole. I think the outlook got better adding Stephon Diggs. But it's still Josh McDaniels. It's still Mike Vrabel. It's still probably pretty run heavy. And those aren't the most fantasy friendly environments. 11th pick 130. I probably just take Tank here. Nothing else is jumping out at me. Yeah. I'll take Tank Bigsby as my second running back is fine. If he is an RB2 or even an RB1 on this Jacksonville offense, it's an offense we're going to want to target with Liam Cohen, who has fed multiple running backs to very good seasons, and at this price, I can afford for it to be a dud because I'm likely going to hit this with no less than 6, potentially 7 running backs total. So we'll be fine. Let Mama Cook taking Hollywood Brown and Keenan Allen, 2 guys that the Slappies love their potential. Keenan Allen's a weird one. I mean, he would fit right in as like, on the Titans. They signed Keenan Allen after the draft to be, Cam Ward's new Xavier Restrepo is the big slot. That would make a lot of sense. And that probably is just because there were just so many quarterback injuries that if you had unstacked healthy quarterbacks, you were just lapping the field. The last 2 years have been really odd with how things have shaken out. I don't feel the need to take a quarterback here, so I think I'm going to take Ford here, who's a little bit safer than Spears personally, and then hope to get Spears, White, Benson. I feel a little worried about. He didn't get as much third down work. It is PPR. They brought in Cam Scatabo for a visit. They like him a lot. Rico, guys like that. Someone will follow this ilk, and I probably just want to push the quarterback envelope a little bit for a value. A quarterback always falls in these rooms, seemingly, and I feel very well covered with Murray and May. Dude, I don't expect Spears to. I don't expect any player to come all the way back around to me. 10 or more picks. I've taken Spears probably more here than I have. Like I do think Ford and Spears are in the same tier. I like Garendo more as a cheaper option on underdog. He's a little bit priced up here more than I would like. So yeah. And he's saying, I do this 50% of teams I draft how I want, 30% how I hear the football streamers want me to draft, and 10% mix it up, and 10% I'll reach regardless of ADP. Diversify, brother. Diversify. Also, I mean, I give me 3 streamers that all think alike. I know so many that, outside of like maybe team structure, I've yet to stream with anyone that I enjoy that has the same takes as I do. And that's why we fight about it on Thursdays. Typhel Towers, me, Best Ball Guy, and PPR Tyler get together and we argue and duke it out on stream. We veto each other's picks. It's a chaotic mess and it's a lot of fun. Oh, what, for me? Only going 2 QBs? I mean, I for Murray and May, I could certainly say, hey, Murray has a top 6 quarterback finish. May has a top 10 quarterback finish. And the way that they ping pong, I hit the nuts. I think on a team like this, I'd like a stacked third quarterback for like spikes, especially as a mobile guy, because I think that's how I outpace Josh Allen and Hurts and Jaden Daniels teams. So I would agree with you if it was underdog. On drafters, I will not mind a third guy just because I do think cumulative season, I'd be pretty surprised if Murray and May both ended up as like top, like they both have to finish as top 5 quarterbacks for me to compete for first specifically. If I'm just looking to min cash or place top 100, I agree. I think I'd push the envelope and hit send on like 8 running backs. But I think I'm more likely to push it with 2 tight ends than I am with quarterback, just because of where I took them. If I take a onesie in the top 2 rounds, I'll push with 2, and if I take one outside of it, I'll typically go 3. And much as I thought, Lawrence, Penix, and McCarthy all come back around. Bryce Young, Cam Ward as coverage, so I'm going to draft RJ Harvey here, which is who I was really hoping would make it back to me as our 4th running back. Really solid rookie dart there. What was the commercial? I forget YouTube runs ads on these. I hope it was for Adam and Eve or something. That'd be fun. I've had YouTube Premium for the last few months because it was a Google Play Store promo for all the money I spend gifting memberships and super chats on streamers. Bryce Young going over Michael Penix and McCarthy, I assume because of stack, and I would be incorrect. That's interesting. Goes Bryce Young Strange instead of. Oh, I guess he wanted Lawrence and he's just throwing a fit. I don't know. So this is where I'm like, McCarthy at 159 as my last quarterback. If we're talking about guys with ceilings, a naked McCarthy just gives us like a nutted ceiling for like quarterback points just because it's KOC. And I also have enough backing to protect against any sort of, slow return to physical form for the injury. It seems like it was a cleanup for his knee, so he should be fine day one. And he had more scrambling ability than we gave him credit for. Now, he's going to be mostly naked. But we'll probably add a rookie receiver to this room soon. And they did say they were looking potentially upgrade Naylor with a rookie. So sorry to the Vikings drafter that pushed him, but mentioned if the right value falls in my lap, it makes sense. I've been in those rooms where I punted QB too hard and got paid for it. I think we misspell it every time too. We spell it differently. BBG spells it with an I. PPR Tyler spells it with an I, and I don't care. Oh yeah. So you're talking like zero running back, wide receivers, etc. Yeah, see, the Kyron FUD on punt return was stupid. Like punt return, that was stupid. I agree with you there. It was Jordan Rodriguez that I got worried about because she's really plugged into the team. She's the one that put us on Kyron and Puka in their rookie training camps. And so when she was saying, hey, the staff really likes Corum and wants to try to shift every other drive, that was concerning for his price. And I had been fading Corum for a while. I think the offensive line imploding with injuries starting in week one, honestly, was like the last 4 weeks of training camp, probably shifted what they wanted to put their trust in a rookie, especially in pass pro. But yeah, I mean, you're going to benefit a lot if you just kind of do the opposite of what the market's telling you to do more oftentimes than not, just because when you're right, they're also wrong. One thing I want to keep in mind is if I have too many takes in line with the market's thinking, well, then I'm not benefiting as much because a lot of other people that are just following the market are also doing that. So sometimes it does make sense to just be like, even if I might agree, I think it's worthwhile going the opposite direction, aka zig when they zag, yada yada. Just because, especially in contests like this, where like placing first is so important, you're better off kind of just being contrarian and benefiting from that. Yeah, it's always a difficult decision when you're looking at like a onesie position, quarterback versus tight end. And that's why I'm willing to play the pockets. And, if I passed on McCarthy here, another team pushing quarterback gets a cheap McCarthy potentially stacked up. And that makes my job so much harder to actually outpace that team. So that's another reason why I don't mind taking it, kind of just blocking it off. The guy I was going to take was DJ Giddens anyway, and he comes back around to me. So I end up getting a cheap quarterback 3 with access to a top scoring offense where that quarterback outpaces ADP every single year seemingly, and still get my 2 preferred rookie running back targets in Harvey and Giddens. Liking this team a lot. Can't wait for it to suck ass. I have not seen them for the early drafts. I've looked at them. I typically look at them every year before regular season stuff. Some oddball stuff wins. Typically just the guys with like most live spots. Kittle is a fixture. He's in like 3 or 4 of the top 10 teams. like the last 4 years just because of his spikes being so massive. And then like one of the top mobile quarterbacks like Hurts in the 6th round that 1 year was optimal. Do I take another running back? I think I'll take Otton here. I think if I'm going to only go 2 tight ends, Otton's access to a high-scoring offense, runs on the routes, play action passes, can catch touchdowns. We saw him be the tight end 1 for stretches of the season, so I think that's fine. Tight end can get really ugly really fast. These running backs are fine, but I don't think there's I don't personally feel like there's a huge tier break between some of the next guys. So Benjamin saying wide receiver picked first in all of them, and I'm pretty sure only 2 QB. Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I haven't looked at him in like 10 months. And see, this is where it's interesting. I love dissecting winning teams, but you do have to remember that like what happens each year affects that. The 2 QB teams winning so often is probably because we've had just so many quarterback injuries the last 2 years. Like the last 2 years, we've had a lot of QB injuries, but we've also had a lot of QB benchings. So if you are taking like a bunch of quarterbacks, being mindful of the types of guys you are taking, lower bench risk guys, etc., or just targeting quarterbacks that the market hates, they could really outpace your Geno Smiths, your Baker Mayfields, and your Sam Darnolds the last few years when they got a full year starting runway, but the market decided they sucked and they weren't worth a top 180 pick. And pairing that with like an elite quarterback, so you have your structural opening for like another running back or another flex play. So that makes a lot of sense. Structurally, again, I think there's a lot of ways you can win this, based on also how like injuries shake out. That's tough. Yeah, I mean, you can have so many good takes, and just the last few weeks, it's all variance. We do have an underdog promo code. Use promo code Sanctuary. Same promo code as here, Sanctuary. That is our channel promo code. You can get your bonus. I believe I don't remember as far as it's up to. Actually, I'd say this, Eddie, full transparency. I think our code ran out literally like a week ago. I think like the last 7 days, and we are currently in talks to get it re-upped. Underdog's just been really slow for all the non-big underdog streamers. So I think the only Sanctuary code that's live right now and active is on Drafters for the 100% deposit match. I do expect us to get the underdog promo code back live active for this year any day now. But if and when it is Sanctuary, I know. It's annoying. We asked months ago, and they've been taking their sweet time. Well, look at that. Quorum comes all the way back around. So a guy we almost took over Otton comes back to us anyway. So we'll take Quorum here as our RB6. Wow, this room came together kind of nicely. Wide receivers gotten nasty. Appreciate you, Eddie. We appreciate you. Yeah, I'm a Houston local. Tom and Rich are 2 awesome co-hosts on this channel doing Dynasty and redraft content over in the lovely UK. Dropped a lot of good rookie videos the last few weeks. Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren for tight end 1 hit the channel not so long ago. Ollie goes in front of us. What a bummer. He's still a solid guy. Runs all the routes. Decent target earner. Not great, but decent. Big body red zone role. If Evans or Godwin misses any time, he can serve as the 2. He served as the 1. I think I'm just going to take Royals here. His red flag is red, but I just don't see any other. I take that back. I like Brashard Smith as our last running back here, just because of his explosiveness and potential for pass roll. I like Royals. I have a lot of Royals. I'm a little worried about the reception perception profile, saying like he's really landing spot dependent. Because he worked only like one side of the field in college, and the guys that end up panning out are shifted into the slot. Still like him as a player. I still think, you accept that risk here for, if his upside is like late season Rashi Rice in his rookie year, I think that's worth it. But I am over leveraged probably a little bit. And the whole point of taking Nico, Rice, Jennings, Hunter, Diggs, and Shaheed like we did was saying we could punt it for a while. And now, have we punted it a long time? Yeah. Like what? 7 rounds, 8 rounds. But I think these last 2 picks are going to be receiver, and we'll feel very good about it, especially considering I got probably 2 guys from each tier, just with how this draft fell. Just call Underdog and tell them to launch in the UK. I mean, dude, we would love that for the UK. We would love Underdog to come to the UK. Unfortunately, it seems the legal thing is a big hurdle to them wanting to come. But, I mean, the second Underdog, the second they get launched in the UK, massive. Y'all would love it. We'd love it for y'all. This doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon, unfortunately. Too kind, Hartman. Too kind. Some would wildly disagree with you. Even if they aren't hurt, he can and will still eat. Bucks will probably be in a lot of shootouts again. I'd say he can. So Eddie's saying of Otnick at least. I agree. I think the defense is in need of a lot of talent influx. We've seen them be a really aggressive pass offense, which is great for fantasy. So like any player, especially cheap, it's kind of the same thing with Gesicki. Different type of player where he's more involved in the pass game, but he's only going to see so many plays. So it kind of almost is like a wash. Gesicki's much older. Otten is younger. And just seems like the tight end is a role in this offense that just benefits from, easy coverage because Evans, Godwin, McMillan are pulling coverage deeper. Just kind of serving as an outlet. And if anybody misses time, the other pieces benefit. And I love Evans. He's missed like 4 games regularly with soft tissue stuff. And Godwin is 30 years old, returning from an ankle dislocation injury. So I definitely think in full season scoring, he's definitely more interesting than not because he's going to be much more valuable than tight ends on dog shit offenses that are not going to score 30 touchdowns this year. 80% on DK. Wow. I love Trey Tucker. I think it's very likely they add a receiver, but that still means that Trey Tucker can operate as the third. And I want to buy all the Raiders because I think their pace of play is going to be really high. I think we'll get a rookie in Torrey Horton. If you're going to take a dart late, may as well be a rookie. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of Trey Tucker on Underdog and on Drafters because he is explosive. He's been used in like the jet sweep run game. He's been used as like quick screen yak play guy. He's been used as deep play guy. Gino's going to be the best quarterback he's played with probably to this date. And I do think the offensive pace of play is going to be really high. And I think the scoring potential gets better. 4 late QBs, not great in Drafters, but more if they're the guys you need. And I think that's totally fair. Like, I think boring tight ends late on good offenses are better picks than not, historically. All right, last pick here, last receiver. I'm going to go Vele. It's a PPR site. Sean Payton, coach speak, really into Vele. Seemed like he had a role. His ribs getting cracked mid-season apparently kind of dissuaded them from utilizing him a lot. Marvin Mims' role is real gimmicky. He's effective, but he's effectively like a third running back outlet. Sutton in the last year of his contract. So if we've seen guys like that get traded, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins. And so he's a big body slot who, I mean, that's been a beneficial role in the Sean Payton offense before. Bo Nix was very effective. PPR site, I like him even more than on underdog sites. And JJ Zacharysen's year 2 model said he was more interesting than not. He had a huge delta from year 1 to year 2, went from like a low 30s guy to like mid 70s. So I think that is a really good 20th round target when guys like Trey Tucker are off the board. Yeah, I see no reason to stop taking Tucker because he's explosive. The offense got better. The quarterback's good. He's like mini Metcalf in this offense with like 3 or 4 targets. But for a late round best ball pick, he's one of the few guys that can give you like a 20 point game just catching long bombs. Yeah, and for all that, like the coach speak was really strong. The coach speak started in training camp. His rookie training camp, we were hearing that he was beating out Troy Franklin for starting position. And week 1, he did that. He had a really strong stretch, hurt his ribs, pretty good target earner, pretty interesting offense, and ambiguous offense. We don't know that they're going to run back. Otten is the 1, Mims is the 2. Franklin's got plenty to prove to the staff that's doghoused people before. Marvin Mims' own usage has been really weird. So I think Vele being one of the cheapest guys to take, if not always the cheapest guy to take in an ambiguous backfield with some pretty good marks. Much worse picks. Green Bean saying Tucker is a good talent. Vegas should bring in weapons build for the future, and Geno's good seasons can be considered outliers, not expected outcome. So I'll disagree this and just say that, like, I think the Raiders' offensive line has outs to be much better than what he's dealt with all the tackles missing time the last couple of years. That is Geno. As a passer, he's been very good. At worst, average. The Raiders have not had that at quarterback for a while. So the quality of targets, at least, is getting better. I think Chip Kelly brings a high-pace offense. So just for pace of play, that's very good. And offensive line. And they're expected to add a top 6 talent in either Genty or a lineman or even another receiver. But again, I mean, right now it's Jacoby, it's Tucker, it's Bowers. So if they bring in another receiver, Tucker's just back to like wide receiver 3. And he's been a pretty good pick in best ball in the last round. As that with worse quarterback play. I am not running back, unfortunately. This was my second draft, and it is my last since we're running on 2 hours. I have yet to get to take the dogs out or go to the gym. And we have got an early morning to take the pup to the dentist office. So I'll just recap our quick team here. 3672, Kyler Murray, Drake May, McCarthy at an ADP discount at quarterback. O'Marion Hampton, Tank Bigsby, Jerome Ford, RJ Harvey, DJ Giddens, Blake Corum, and Brashard Smith at running back. Really fun team for an anchor hero running back build. And then we got Nico, Rashi, Juwan, Travis Hunter, Stephon Diggs, Rashid Shaheed, Torrey Horton, Devon Vele at receiver. And we went, just 2 guys run all the routes, Trey McBride, Kate Otten. Potentially good offenses, hoping for them to outpace their stuff. And really, it's just pace of play. I'm trying to zoom out. For fantasy, it's just like good offenses, high pass rates, bad defenses, good quarterbacks. And anytime I can hammer a good mixture of those in best ball drafts and redraft when it comes time for that, I'm going to, because I think you're going to find a lot more value, but especially in season long. So I think the Raiders went to much closer to league average at worst, and pace of play is going to be great. But yeah, get back in the gym, get back on the couch relaxing. Appreciate everybody joining us here on the Fantasy Sanctuary. Hit a like, drop a comment if you didn't already. Who's the guy you're most excited to draft coming out of the NFL draft? I hope to see everyone at the tops of leaderboards. We want to raise you up on leaderboards here at the Sanctuary. If you became a member today with a gifted membership, don't forget to join the Discord. Grab Rich's rookie guide, over 150 players in there, film takes, analytical models. It's all such great stuff. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Hartman, Bindles, Eddie, Green Bean, Benjamin, who else? Hartman, Kiki. Man, y'all chatted a lot today. Pepper Tony and BB Meatgazer and Colin. BB Meatgazer, thank you again for dropping the memberships. Appreciate everybody here today. Catch you. I will be back Typhoon Tower, I believe, on Best Ball Guys channel Thursday evening, probably around 7:30 Central. So good to meet everybody and good to say hey to everyone once again. I'll see you in Drafters. Use promo code Sanctuary. We'll have the Underdog Sanctuary code back in no time. We'll go bug them and tell them people are asking. People want to join. People want to spend their money and get these good players while they can. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time.